This is Diane from Style Falcon. People ask me all the time about my gravity-fed iron. They want to know what's it like to use one, how do you set it up, and what are some tips for success and for safety. So I'm going to take you through how mine works and maybe give you some pointers if you want to explore getting or using a gravity-fed iron yourself. For starters, you should know that I'm just going to talk about my iron here. There are many other irons available. You should always follow your manufacturer's recommendations for how to set up, how to use, and how to maintain your iron for success. You need to know that these irons get really hot. They get a lot hotter than most ordinary home irons that I've seen. You could burn yourself, you could scald yourself, you could ruin your project, you could probably set a fire with one of them. So it's always important to use it properly, set it up properly, never leave it unattended, and always shut it off when you're done. It has no safety features on it like an automatic shut off or an alarm or a light or something that will blink to show you when it's overheated or it's in a dangerous situation. Now that all of those safety requirements are out of the way, let's take a close-up look at what this iron is like. The first thing you probably notice is that the iron is sitting down flat on my ironing board here. Big no-no typically with household irons, but with a gravity-fed iron, you have to set it up this way because it's designed so that you cannot put it on its side like most irons that you're probably familiar with. The other thing you might notice is it always has to sit on a heat-proof pad. I happen to have bought this one because red is my favorite color, but there are pads that maybe come with your iron that you can buy separately. But it always has to be seated on a heat-proof pad, and I would just leave it there at all times so that you're certain that it's safe even if it's off, or if you turn it on, it always must be on this pad if you're not using it. The second thing you might notice is that there's a separate piece here on the bottom. It's a white thing here, and it's attached to the iron with this spring. This is called a shoe. I happen to have a spare one here to show you. You have to often buy these separately. They don't typically come with the iron. I bought two so that I can always have a spare one in case one gets gunked up with interfacing or something, so I can clean it, I can swap it out. But it's a lightweight aluminum thing. Here's the spring that it attaches to the iron with, and it has a very nice slippery non-stick surface and a lot of holes for steam to get out, which is the main thing, so that you can really get a tremendous amount of steam on your project. Other than that, it's not too fancy. It's a heavy duty piece of equipment here. It has an on and off switch like you'd have with any iron, a heat indicator, 0 to 5, 1, 2, and 3 on this iron happen to be non-steam settings, and 4 and 5 happen to be the steam settings. And then this button right here actually controls the burst of steam. And then you'll notice on the side here, there's a couple things. Here's the power cord like you'd have on any iron. And then this blue line is the water line. And it goes into this thing called the solenoid, which is a valve that controls how much water goes into the iron to make the steam. And this tube goes around and it goes up to the tank, which is up here. The water tube goes around and it goes up into the tank, which is up here. The manufacturer will tell you how high you have to set the tank for a good amount of gravity to take over and feed water into the iron. The tank has a simple little spigot here to turn it on and off. I have mine mounted on the wall in a permanent place on an IV pole that just swings back and forth. If you don't have a permanent place to set up your iron, you could buy an IV pole to move it around place to place. You have to put some kind of either distilled water, or you have to treat your water, your ordinary like household tap water, for this machine. If you just use ordinary tap water, the minerals in the water are going to destroy your iron over time. I think it's pretty cheap to just buy bottled distilled water, and then just put it in the tank, but you could use the mineral treatment if you wanted to. So let me show you how to turn it on. Again, this is how the manufacturer of this particular iron recommends it. There are maybe other ones, but it's really important to do it in a specific order, and I'll explain why. For starters, you'll just turn it on, which again, you just flip the switch. That's pretty easy. It does have a little light to indicate that it's on. That's about as much of a safety feature as you're going to get in an iron like this. This iron is pretty heavy. If you find that you have mobility issues, if you find that it's difficult to lift something that's over a couple pounds, then maybe this isn't the solution for you. On the back, for the heat setting, I'm going to crank it up to 5 since I'm going to show you the steam setting and I want a lot of steam to come out. And then for the tank, there's just a little spigot here. A lot of people make the mistake of cranking it all the way out to get as much water as possible to come down the tube into the iron, but you really don't want to do that. You want to just have a little bit of water coming out. So the manufacturer of this recommends that you turn it about 1/4 of a turn. So that's what I do. It gives you enough water going in there. Heats up pretty quickly. This may seem like a big production as opposed to just your ordinary household iron, which you just plug in, but it really doesn't take that long, and it does heat up really quickly, and it does get really hot. A couple of other things you might want to have: a press cloth like this. This is just a spare piece of silk organza, which might be useful for protecting your project like you would with lots of irons, but particularly for this one because it does get pretty hot, a press cloth might be a really good way to go. I have here a pretty wrinkled up piece of cotton that I've wrinkled up nicely so I can demonstrate how the iron works. When it gets up to temperature, you have to, before you use it, you have to discharge the steam that's in it. So to pick it up, I usually at this point hold it over the heat-proof pad in case any water droplets or anything could come out. I don't want to hold it over my project. And you hit the button, and you should hear that and see that there was a good amount of steam that came out. It's really important to discharge it just in case there is an excessive amount of water in there. It'll give it a chance to move through, and then you're ready to go. When it comes to ironing, a lot of people make the mistake with these types of irons to hold the button down, but you don't want to do that. You really just want to hold it down briefly, let the burst of steam come out, and then move the iron like you would in any other situation. So here we go. So I'm just pushing the button, moving the iron back and forth. And ironing this wrinkled little piece of cotton to show you how it works. Okay, and there we go. Does a pretty good job, doesn't it? Sometimes it'll make the little burbling, gurgling noises, which is just a sign that there's more steam that's ready to go. When you shut the iron off when you're done for the day, you need to follow the exact same procedure for turning it on, but in reverse. So you start by turning the water off. Then you have to discharge the iron like you did when we started. You have to get any water and steam that is in there out. If you let it sit in there, it's probably going to rot your iron over time. So it's important to discharge it. You can just, again, hold it up, push the button, and just, you might have to push it a couple times. Let any steam that's in there come out. Then turn the temperature to 0. Shut it off. Set it back down, and you're good to go. I like to be sure that it's off. Always to do those things. You can also unplug it if you want to. I have it set up where I don't need to unplug it, but that is also something that sometimes the manufacturers recommend. That's what I have to say about gravity-fed irons. I really am happy that I got this. I put off getting one for a long time, and when I finally did, I was so delighted. I'll never go back to an ordinary iron. I hope you'll give it a try. Please let me know if you do. You can drop an email anytime to hello@stylefalcon.net. You can leave comments here on YouTube, or you can also check out Style Falcon patterns at stylefalcon.net. This is Diane from Style Falcon. Thanks for watching.